welcome back, metalheads, to another night of Wicked Metal Radio right here on DTM Wicked Radio. I hope you guys are having an awesome fucking Saturday night. I know I am. I have a great show in store for you tonight. It's going to be more of a talk show, few music, a little bit of music, but we're going to do a little bit more talking about metal and rock tonight. And I have a great guest with me. I'm joined tonight. He is my guest, my co-host. He is Mike Beard of Man Down Productions. Mike has been in the biz for 20-plus years doing this. And, Mike, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me. I hope that by not having as much music that they won't get bored of me talking, but I'll do my best to entertain them, and I'm really honored to be here with everybody tonight.
Oh, I'm honored to have you here. I've been wanting to get you on for a while, and I kind of sat there when I had another band on that you'd promoted. I sat there going, how do I find the production guy that does this? And I started doing research on Facebook, and I go, I found him.
Well, it's always about the bands and the music, and for us promoters and tour managers and record label people, we're kind of behind the scenes, and our job is to kind of stay away from the spotlight and kind of let the band shine, but it's always nice sometimes to be honest, to be asked to give your opinion on things, because we see a lot of stuff, a lot of new music, a lot of bands behind the scenes before they get big, and it's kind of cool,
Absolutely. Well, hey, you know what? You're an intricate part of this whole scenario. If it wasn't for the people like you, the roadies, the people who set up, right, the bands would not be anywhere. You know what I mean? Well, you guys are an intricate part of that.
I look at it as like a big old pizza. You can have cheese pizza with no toppings, and everybody's a topping. So we're all contributing to the pizza so it tastes good, because everybody needs each other. And things have changed as far as technology and Facebook and everything else. But it's definitely changed over the past 20 years, and everybody can kind of see that with there's no record labels and no money because bands are doing it themselves, just distribution of their own CDs and signing deals, big like AC/DC, these big bands are signing deals with Walmart and Target, so they cut out all the middleman. And a lot of these bands out there are now, to be honest, they're not really musicians sometimes, because back in the day they used to cut tracks and they actually used to play the music, and now everything is played for them or technology plays for them. I get a lot of CDs from bands that want to play for Man Down Productions, and they'll be coming through, or the agency will send me CDs, and the CDs are phenomenal. But then when I see the band live, or they come and play for me, it's definitely not always bad, but it's just so produced and so perfect that when they come to me, they're human. They make mistakes, and it doesn't sound as polished as it does on the CD.
You're absolutely right about that. I've seen enough shows in my lifetime to where, you go to a show and you sit there, when you get out and you go, oh my God, they sound so much better than the CD. They sound
right.
They're so awesome live. They're clean. It sounds almost like they're on a CD. And then there's other bands, you kind of go, the CD sounded so much better. They're not very good live. It's very true.
You're exactly right. Because there's no money to tour. The gas is expensive. Bands can't afford these big old buses. And these tours, even a couple of years ago, Metallica tried to put this big thing together, and they were realizing, even with the mighty Metallica, that financially it's just hard to put things together now. Bands are kind of self-sufficient. I think Facebook is a good thing, but I also think it's bad for music and bands, because nobody gets out there and hangs out and goes and flyer shows like we used to. I don't want to sound like an old grandpa or dad, but
I feel you.
Yeah, when someone comes up to me and give me a CD, I'm saying, hey, I'm Mike and I'm in a band. That personal connection, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go see him play because he was nice enough to give me a CD, and there's that interaction. There's not that anymore. Everybody hits maybe, or yes, I'm going, or maybe I'm not, and then they go to the next event. So it's kind of, it just changes now. It's just totally changed.
It is very different from back in the day, even 10, 15 years ago, even 10 years ago. Very different.
Right.
And now you've got Reverb Nation, you've got SoundCloud, you've got all of these internet installments where, like you said, bands are becoming more self-sufficient and saying, F you, I don't need your record label, I'll self-produce myself.
Right.
It's like that in the radio business, too. I mean, not all hosts, and myself included, we're not, Rush Limbaugh or George Norrie. We self-produce ourselves. If you want your voice out there, sometimes you've got to do it yourself to be heard.
Well, you notice that on TV, on like the TV news anchors, they're actually taking cameras out there, setting them up, and doing all the production, and not having that camera guy or something. Everything is kind of, cutting costs. Trying to be more self-sufficient.
Absolutely, I agree, and in a way, it's kind of a good thing. Because bands now can promote themselves, and the internet's a beautiful thing. We all kind of interconnect, and
yeah. But for me though, seeing when you pay $10 or $20 to go to a show, and you see that band perform live, you can't teach them to be energetic. You can't teach them to be the go-getters. And like, a good example is, I'm going to say the name, Slipknot. In 1999, me and my brother, I'm good. Let's say great friends. I'm friends with a lot of the Bay Area bands through my brother, who got me into the Bay Area thrash scene. I was in the Marine Corps, and I used to come home on leave, and he used to hang out with the bands called Forbidden Evil and Violence,
right.
and Steve from Skin Lab was in my brother's first high school band. So I just knew these guys as musicians, not knowing that later on they would do something and make a big difference in the thrash metal. But what I was going back to was, and I'm kind of getting sidetracked a little bit from you, but it's just I'm actually having a brain fart here right now. I just lost the train of thought there for a second, and maybe you can get me back on track and tell me what the hell you're talking about.
Hey, I've had those many times, and for those
I'm a little bit
who
nervous,
know me,
to be honest with you. I'm
don't,
a little nervous
don't be
because
nervous.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Some of
wonderful.
the band people are like, "Who's this promoter?" There's a lot of promotion companies, and everybody's just trying to be a promoter. But again, I'm honored to be here, so I'm a little bit nervous because I want to do good for the musicians and bands and represent obviously the Bay Area, but also the United States.
Don't be nervous. Last week, you remind me of myself last week. Last week, I don't know if you're familiar with the New York hardcore scene, but I had Gary Meskill from the Crumbsuckers on with me last week, and 10 minutes before the show, I'm texting
right.
Tiffany going, I'm nervous. I can't breathe. She's like, go have a glass of wine. Pour yourself a glass of wine. I go, why am I so nervous? Then he got on air with me, and it was fine. He was the most down-to-earth, coolest dude you're ever going to meet. It went fine, so don't be nervous. We have, that's what talk radio is about. People want to hear the naturalness of ourselves because we're human. And we make mistakes.
The thing for me, though, is I work in people don't know this. A lot of promoters, that's all they do for a living. They're kind of going from paycheck to paycheck. I work in the funeral business, and so I'm reminded every day that life is short. So when I'm dealing with Blackie Lawless and the 12 white towels at the Avalon, the old place I used to work at,
right?
I'm kind of reminded every day that life is short. So it doesn't really affect me because, I'm a former funeral director, and again, not death, but my point is that you're reminded every day how precious life is. So when the bands come and play and they're stressed about the little things advancing or not having the white towels or the green M&Ms, I tell them, guys, it's a beautiful day. You guys are playing, get to sell your merch, and life is good. So that's definitely been an advantage for me. And before that, I was in the Marine Corps. And so my time in the Marines was fun and tough and traveled the world. But again, that's where I got used to dealing with different types of cultures and people. So it's easy to me to deal with that. I really enjoy putting the shows together. I kind of like the controlled chaos part of it. When it's chaotic, it's better for me because I like to kind of get it all together. And the bands have been great. I'll be honest with you, some of the bands I grew up listening to as a kid, when I meet them in person, I'm not going to mention any names, they piss me off so much, or they're so mean. I'm going to say one. I want to give some dirt. Kip Winger from Winger is the biggest dick I've ever met. And he was a dick. And I just had them a couple of years ago, and everybody else in his band was the nicest guys. But Kip I called him, instead of Kip Winger, I called him Dick Winger. And
Dick Winger, I love it.
Well, I love the band. I mean, he's a very talented musician, again. But, I'm spending a couple $1,000 on a show in San Jose and doing the radio, and 107.7 The Bone at the time was backing it up. But he was just so mean to his fans, it kind of threw me off a little bit. And so, again, I'm not judging him. It sours me because I've always liked certain bands. Like, again, Tommy Victor from Prong, great guy. We didn't hit it off a few years ago when I booked him in San Diego, and now we're the bestest of friends because we had that chance to make up.
Absolutely. Well, it's like that in every business. You're going to deal with, even in the acting business, the radio business,
right.
certain hosts, certain guests you have. I've had guests on my other radio show that I do on Friday night, and they've just turned out to be complete assholes to me. And it's like, okay, you're my guest. I've taken the time to book you and promote you and put you on the air, and you're going to be an asshole to me? I don't think so.
We're all human.
I feel it.
We have bad days. Sometimes I have a bad day. So
we all do. It's part of being human. And I noticed
this: you can't please everybody. You can, no matter how big the show is. I've had sold out shows with UFO, or different, Testament or Dredge or some of these bands. It's sold out show, completely packed, and I'm stressed out because of little things. So, you got to look at perspective and say you can't please everybody, because if you're trying to please everybody, it's just not going to be possible.
And that's it. You can't please everybody. You can't make everybody happy. And there was a comment I saw you make. I think it was on Facebook. You were saying you're like the babysitter. I get that, because you are.
And no disrespect to the bands or the owners. I mean, at all. I mean,
not at all.
I don't play music. I'm not a musician. I wasn't talented enough. Sometimes, we could both look at a painting, and we both had two different perspectives on that painting, whether it's a nice painting or ugly or different color cars or whatever. I have a yellow Corvette. Maybe you like red. But we're all different. But, again, nobody's right or nobody's wrong. But I just do my part. I try to do my role. I wasn't talented enough to play. I went in the service. I came back. I started working at the door at a local club that was really popular back in the day. I started at the Pound in San Francisco. I was just a friend of mine I went to high school with. Heather ran that for Tony Karachi, the owner, and I knew nothing about booking, but Heather and I went to high school, and so I stood there at the door. She knew all the Exodus guys and Death Angel, and she was really doing good. I mean, I was amazing. This lady, a woman in a man's world back then, could take over, and she did, and I was really impressed by that. And I just started working for her and learning from her, and eventually we went our own ways. But again, it's all just improvising, and I'm kind of getting sidetracked. I'm kind of an ADD guy, and I look for those challenges.
So am I. So we're going to make a good team here. No, I have adult ADD, so I kind of go on a rant and then go, wait a minute, reel myself back in. Where was I going with this?
Right.
I feel you, man.
I'm always trying to be perfect. I always try to do, even after almost 20 years of doing this and booking, I still don't think I'm doing good as far as my brother said to me the other day, he goes, man, you keep trying to prove yourself. And I look at the calendar, it's been almost 20 years, and I'm still thinking that I'm brand new at this, and I got to step back and say, you know what, I need to chill out a little bit, because I don't need to prove nothing to nobody,
That's true. You don't.
No, and your word, sorry.
Go ahead.
Your word is, see, I'm not a Live Nation or on the East Coast. They have big, huge companies that produce these, these shows. They're unreachable. These big tours.
Right.
But for me, I'm a small little guy. I'm one. Man Down Productions is one guy with a cell phone. And so one thing I learned from my dad in the Marine Corps, and this is not the military, is your word is everything. And my relationships with the bands or the owners, I can't compete with the big agency groups and stuff like that, or the big, Bill Graham Presents and stuff like that back in the day. But
right.
one thing that keeps me going is when I call somebody up and I say, like, for instance, 36 Crazy Fists called me, and Skin Lab said, hey, our date got canceled in Oakland. Could you move it to San Jose? I moved it within 17 days. We had 125 people, and it was a great show. And those are the relationships that I have, that I cherish. Like DRI, their agent is a big prick. I'm going to mention it. I'm going to say his name right now. John Finberg is an asshole. But he represents.
Oh.
I don't know if I can't say that.
No, you can say that. Go right ahead. I'm shocked.
And
really?
He knows it, and a lot of people know that. But like I said, John's a good agent. He knows what he's doing. He's a go-getter. But some of these people, I don't get along with. But my relationships with Spike or DRI is word of mouth, and that's kind of where I'm at. Is if they come, we do a good show, I pay them, everybody's cool, then they'll come back to me, and that's kind of how I survive.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you this right now. After having my guest on last week, and, I just said they're part of the New York hardcore scene, I'm going to have to put you in touch with them, because they would like to come out here, and they're not, anything to do with Bill Graham Presents or any of those big companies. That might be something we'll have to talk about.
Yeah, I'm down. I'm
hit,
totally down.
They mentioned it to me last week. They said, yeah, we'd like to come out to California and do some shows. So we'll talk after the show maybe, or
Sure.
this weekend sometime about that. And I'll touch base with them on the East Coast and see what they have to say.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you, because I had no idea you were affiliated with the Avalon. And Michael, I have some of the most memorable memories of that place. I saw some of the best shows. I've seen Exodus there. I've seen Destruction there. God,
Yep.
I think I've seen Forbidden there once or twice.
Those are all. I had something to do with all those. Yep.
They were awesome. I mean, I was really sad when that club closed down. It was one of my favorite places to go to see metal bands.
I was too. Mike and Julia Jafari owned the place, and they owned the building, or they leased the building. They didn't own the land, and they kind of got the owner sold the land, and then now it's a dialysis center where for 9.5 years we destroyed livers, and now they're repairing them. It's a true. It's actually it's a dialysis center right now. So.
That's ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Kaiser purchased it, and they, now they're repairing livers. But the place was fantastic. I've been really lucky over the years. Again, I kind of, I went to Mike Jafari to the Avalon back when it was brand new. It was called the Backbeat, and he told me straight out, you're not ready for this. You're not experienced for this. And I listened to him because I wasn't. I was doing a lot of local shows when I started out in 1998, and I was just doing shows. Local bands every week, and it was fun. I was single. I wanted to chase the girls, and I was too cheap to get in, so I wanted to just do shows with the bands, and because I didn't play, and then it just kind of took off from there because some of these agents were watching, and some of the younger bands were getting signed to labels, and they would say, "Hey, who's a good promoter in the Bay Area, or at least that does a lot of shows?" And my name came up, and there's a band called Trapped that signed a band called Aphasia back in the day, and I was doing shows in Blake's on Telegraph Avenue, and just through word of mouth, I got my first lead that way through the singer for Trapped. Chris Brown gave me an opportunity to book some of those bands, and then there's a band called Smash Mouth that was big, and they had a little label, Key to Arson, Fighting Jacks, and a bunch of other bands, and Ben Rooney, and I met those guys, and it all just kind of fell into place. It's really weird. It was a hobby that started to turn into a job, and I haven't quit, and I haven't retired since. And so it's amazing when I look back and say how much time has passed. I mean, I've done some huge shows. I mean, I look back and I'm like, how did I book Exodus or Y&T or UFO or Bleeding Through or Trust Company or just all these bands? I'm like, man, those are bands I used to get the Ozfest things for and stuff. But again, it's relationships, and I'm kind of in a transition now where I'm thinking about retiring. There's a couple clubs that have opened up here, but it kind of rubbed me wrong a little bit. And that place that opened up was supposed to be the new Avalon, but it just didn't work out. So again, not to be bitter, I'm not bitter at all. I'm very proud of what I've done. I'm proud to serve my country in the Marine Corps, but I've always had challenges, and I call myself a babysitter because I'm babysitting all these different personalities. You got the owners, you got the agents, tour managers, bands. You have to please everybody because at the end of the night, when that bill comes or when the show's not doing so good, they look at the promoter, and that's my job to try to get everybody happy. So.
Well, before I go on, I first want to say thank you for serving the country. I appreciate that. I always support our servicemen and women, and I come from a long line of military men, so it's always been, my dad was Army, my uncle was Navy, my other uncle was Air Force, so I have a long line of military men in the family, and we want to thank you for your service.
Well, thank you very much.
Now, so you have been doing this for 20 years. Is that my understanding?
Actually, 18 and a half. I just try to round it off so it sounds better.
That sounds good. That's a good round number, 20.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like 40 sometimes. You age so much over the time and over the years. The thing I feel. See, I've never been besides the Avalon being the main booker, I kind of was a contract guy. I used to like to just go to different venues and rep my own club and work out the deals that way. It's nice to be out at one spot because you can control all your costs and your security and everything else that comes in. And it's easier to know that someone's not taking from you or people aren't getting in for free when you have a good system like that, because the Avalon was solid there for a long time. And when you lose that, especially for me, in 2012 after our last show with Y&T. I've tried a couple different places, but it's just hard because you don't know the owners, and everybody's got different relationships. And I'm going to say it the way it is. And people may not like this, but I'm going to go out there on a limb because that's just who I am. I'm 47 years old. Metal and rock in the Bay Area is dead as far as it doesn't have the numbers that it used to because people are older, they're having children, and the kids are now in college and high school, and it's not what it used to be. Now there's nothing wrong with that, but we can't survive at a club just doing rock or metal. You have to do other stuff as well to keep that place going. That's what the Avalon did. We did Persian parties, Russian parties, Catch a Fire. We kind of were a jack of all trades, 31 flavors. And I'm not putting down metal or rock. It's just the numbers aren't there for the bands. We saw that when Kiss and Motley Crue came through a couple of years ago when we had to cancel some shows at the Shoreline Amphitheater because not enough tickets are sold. So
no, you're absolutely right. No, it's not just the Bay Area. I'm starting to think it's the entire United States because I have a bigger following in Europe than I do in the United States.
All the great festivals
I have more,
are in Europe.
Yeah.
All the ones I see, I go, holy moly, can I go there?
Yeah. Me too. It's like, okay, I'm going to Holland. I'm moving to Germany. I don't want to be here anymore.
Right.
I mean, the metal scene is big there, and it is people with kids, and they bring their kids, and they get their kids involved in their music, and it's not like that here, and it's really, really sad.
Well, the biggest thing for the Bay Area is we don't have, and I'm not knocking, we don't have a radio station. I love the Bone and K-Fox and our local stations here, but they play the AC/DCs, and I love all those bands, and Zeppelin. They play all the old bands, and that's great, and that's classic. But we don't have a station that plays the current, like when the new albums come out, and they play the new stuff and the new bands.
Like
we
KSJO.
Don't have that.
We used to have KSJO. We don't have. I miss KSJO. I loved KSJO.
Because and we do to KOME and KRQR and all that stuff, but we don't have radio stations. Like in Sacramento, they have a good radio station. I think it's 98 something, but they play the current stuff that's out so that you can listen to it and you get into it. So when the bands come around, you knew what their new stuff was. We don't have that here in the Bay Area, and that sucks for metal and rock because you don't know what the new Drowning Pool or the new Trap record's like, or the new Heather or Sid or whatever you're into. I mean, we don't even play. We love Exodus and Death Angel and Testament, Machine Head, but you don't hear it unless it's on a Friday night on a pre-recorded show when everybody's out on a Friday night going to concert. You don't hear it. You don't hear the new stuff, and I think that's what really kills everything.
I agree with you 100%. I was just saying that the other day. I was clicking through the radio stations going, here I'm down in Salinas, so for my classic rock, it's the Hippo. And, I mean, it's the same stuff. It's Led Zeppelin. And I love those bands. Don't get me wrong. I love them. It's classic rock. But you don't get to hear any of the new releases from the metal scene.
Nothing.
And I know even with KSJO, when it was back in the day, you still didn't get to hear. They very rarely played anything like Exodus or Slayer.
Right.
Well,
they used to have on a Friday night that they'd have a heavier local lick type thing where they would play some of those records.
That's right. I remember that. That's very true.
But there's nothing as far as mainstream. The only reason they promote here's the deal: the bigger bands get advertisement. So like if Def Leppard's coming with Styx and Tesla, they'll have radio commercials for that, or the Scorpions coming here because. The advertisements are the Budweisers and all the beer companies. They are advertising for them to go to the shows to drink their beer. So that's why they're getting all the ads. They're appearing. People that are older have money and have the jobs, and the younger kids unfortunately don't have all the money. So they're not. They're not going to keep spending money to the advertisers type thing. So
that's
I hope that made sense. I guess
it made perfect sense to me, Mike. Perfect sense. And on that note, I'm going to play one of the bands that's playing, and we'll talk a little bit more about the show after I play one of their songs.
Sure.
These guys are the Kings Must Die, and I
awesome
like them.
Band.
They're very good. I love them.
Mike Sloat's a great producer. Produced a lot of videos for Machine Head and Hatred, different bands, and then just a great band, nice guys, and they're awesome people too.
Well, these guys are from an undisclosed location in Sonoma, California. We say no more than that.
Okay.
And this song is track 8. We're going to play Treacherous True, track 8. King Must Die. I played a double shot of The Kings Must Die. So the first song was Treacherous True, and that last song was Your Grip Is. Very good band. I can't wait to see them Friday night.
Amazing band.
Mike,
amazing band.
Oh yeah, they're great. I should have downloaded a few more tracks of theirs tonight to play, but I have a couple other songs we'll play from some of our opening bands. I wanted to ask you a question because I used to admin for a heavy metal Facebook site, and I'm in a lot of these heavy metal sites, and I hear these metalheads back and forth talking amongst each other,
Right.
and everyone's got an opinion. It's the way the world is.
Well,
But I have to agree with some of them on this, and I've heard this before. And you can say I can't answer that, and that's cool. I understand.
No, I'm going to answer. I'm not. I'm going to answer. I'm not going to hide from nothing.
Okay. I've heard, and I kind of feel this way myself, that when Gary Holt went to play with Slayer, it really seemed to affect Exodus. And I love Exodus. I grew up listening to Exodus. I love Slayer too, and I think he was a perfect replacement, unfortunately, for Jeff Hanneman. But do you think that it has affected Exodus in any way?
Well, again, I don't represent Exodus, and they're my friends, and I love the band. My opinion, this is just opinion. This is Mike Beard, not the promoter talking, but obviously it's going to affect the band when you have two great bands. Gary's got to do the Slayer thing, and he's got to do the Exodus thing. So obviously, somebody's making those decisions for him. It could be financial. It could be I don't know these things, but if you think about it, maybe the financial part of it is better in Slayer as far as who knows what deal he has or works out. That's between him and them. But it might be better for him financially. Maybe it's a better deal than doing the Exodus thing. But Gary's heart's with both bands, and he's always going to be an Exodus guy, and I think he's going to try to do both of them. If he could play, he would do anything. He could do anything. He would do anything he could to play both shows if he could at one time. But the reality that's impossible to do. But I think it affects the band as far as the schedules. I know that Exodus moved over to the agency group with Dan. Well, their agent Dan was with the Thunderdome touring for many years, and I used to book shows back with him. And then he moved up to a bunch of different, not a bunch of different, just a couple other different agencies, and now he's doing really well over the agency group. And he took Exodus with him and Death Angel, I think. And then what happens is Exodus moved over. I think they're with Scott from Pinnacle Entertainment, and they have they kind of moved up the ladder with different. It depends on their agent or how their tours go, and
okay.
So they've moved up. But again, I think it's up to Gary what's the better play for him as far as financials, and he has to make those decisions. I mean, he's always going to be Exodus, and he'll always do nothing's forever, but he's going to do the best he can for his family, and that's kind of where it affects the band, because I'm sure Exodus guys want him to be playing, and Gary's a great guitar player. He's an amazing person. He's a great husband. His wife, they're just good. He's great people. But again, it affects the band when you have two projects. It's kind of hard, and anybody that's playing in two bands, it's hard. Tommy Victor plays in Danzig, but then he does his prong thing. There's a lot of those guys out there now that are doing double duties, and it does affect the band as far as touring. Unless you take them on tour. Exodus went on tour with Slayer and Suicidal Tendencies, and that they had to do double duty, but they got it done.
It's probably easier too, because you're all there at the same time, in the same place, and
right.
That makes sense.
And I think Gary's helped out him being in Slayer has helped out Exodus, get on some good tours and get them back out there, and I'm glad to see these bands, man, like when Forbidden in 2009, Forbidden came back, and Death Angel and Exodus. It's just nice to see these bands making records again. That's what it's all about. And anybody that's playing in two bands, especially bands that are well known, are starting to get big again with Exodus and stuff. It's hard. I mean, it's going to take a toll on both bands. So he's got to juggle that. And I'd hate to be in his shoes, obviously, making those decisions. But he's been doing this a long time. He knows what he's doing.
You got to do what you got to do, and it's a business,
You're exactly right.
Your band is your business, especially if you're a big band,
right.
Like Slayer
and these opportunities
Exodus.
don't come. You think about how many guitar players there are, and you have an opportunity to play with Slayer or Exodus. I mean, you take these opportunities. I mean, look at Kurt Hammett. He went from Exodus to Metallica. You got to take these opportunities because you may not get a shot doing it again.
That's
you know,
true.
so,
If you don't
you
take
know,
a chance, you'll never know.
and there's always going to be people that criticize, but again, you know, we're not in their shoes, you know. So
That is true. Well, I'm going to go ahead and play another song by another band that's going to be playing on Friday night on the 3rd. This is Culture Warfare. And these
great guys.
I really like them too. I guess they were founded in 2011, and they're based, according to what it says on their Facebook page, and I took this information right from there. Culture Warfare is based on the concept of not being classified or labeled or categorized as any kind of sub-gen of metal theme. So they're just metal.
I'm just going to tell you right now,
like
their drummer, Kenny, I've seen a lot of drummers in my time. That guy hits the drum set as hard as anybody I have ever seen. He literally splits drumsticks in half when he plays. He hits it so hard. He's one of the hardest drummers if you ever get a chance to see him on YouTube or see him live, he's to me one of the hardest hitting drummers I've ever seen. I mean, he literally splinters sticks. He'll go through 10 of them. It's that awesome.
Well, let's listen. This is track 10, and this is PSTD by Culture Warfare. All right. Culture Warfare, everybody. You could check them out this Friday night. And Mike will give you all the information on that. How's that, Mike? You want to tell us where we can see these guys?
Well, Culture War, I've got a show coming up on April 3rd. It's Friday at the Old Cactus Club. It's a famous location here in the Bay Area where everybody used to play. But now it's called the Back Bar. But it's going to be DRIs, I'll be Dirty Rotten Imbeciles, Hatred, The King Must Die, Culture Warfare, and a band of orcs. It's a really good show, great bands. If you get a chance, you can go to brownpapertickets.com and click on the events, pull up DRI or any of those 4 bands or 5 bands, and you'll be able to get yourself a ticket. It's $20 to get in online, and it's 25 day of. But for $25, you get to see, obviously, the legendary DRI and all these other bands. So it's definitely worth it. The club is a little bit smaller. It holds about no more than 300, so it's one of those shows where DRI likes these shows where the fans are right there in their faces, and it's just going to be very, very entertaining, and you're going to love it. So just come on out.
You know what? DRI fans love that. I love
they love
going to
see
them small. And it's unfortunately he couldn't be with us tonight, but, Spike had family commitments, according to you, and we understand that. So
well, those
my
guys
listeners
are kind of
out
private.
there.
They're kind of private guys. They kind of like to interact with their fans at the shows, and it's kind of a good formula,
That's cool. Hey, I respect that totally.
Yeah. But come on out, guys. I'm telling you, it's going to be, they're playing a couple dates here in the Bay Area, but this is one of your small, intimate shows, and there's going to be some big-name people in the audience that I can't name, but you know who they are, trust me, and it's going to be fun.
All right. Get out my camera.
Yeah. And listen, the show, the show will not sell out because we're going to release a bunch of tickets, at the day of. It'll be close to max, but we have another room that we could do overflow in. So just come on out. Do not miss this show. Please do not miss it.
You heard it here. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to be there. Mike's going to be there. There'll be some cool people there. You can't lose. I love those small, intimate little clubs. I have good memories of that. I grew up going to the Stone.
Right.
Testament and all those bands
Absolutely.
Up in the Stone. Exodus, I think I've seen Destruction there before.
Right.
Those were good memories. And then across the bay in Oakland, you had the Omni.
Right.
Before you had the Regency Ballroom and all these other places, you had the Omni in the East Bay. You had
all
the Stone
the
in San Francisco. Ruthie's. Yep.
You had you had the Pound, you had Pine Street, you had the Timeout, you had iMusicCast, you had Blake's on Telegraph Avenue. There's just so many great venues that are now no more, but those are the good old days. And one thing nice about this show is there's a parking garage right across the street. It's only $6 to park, so your parking is not it's close. I love San Francisco and other places, but it's really hard to get parking. There's a huge parking garage across the street, and it's right downtown San Jose. And it is a nice, intimate place, and it's just going to be fun. It's going to be bodies hitting the floor, I'm telling you. And we got plenty of tickets, so just show up, ask for me, and we're going to get you in.
Now, is that an all-ages show or 21 and over?
It's unfortunately, in San Jose, there's not too many all-ages places anymore, but it is 21 and up.
All right, so leave the kiddies at home, get a babysitter, and get your asses out there. It's going to be rocking.
That's right. And again, I appreciate you guys' support. I don't want to sound like a promoter that wants to show up and make all this money. There's not a lot of money in this business. I just want to make sure I take care of the guarantees and the sound. And if I make a penny, I'm happy. If not, it's okay.
Hey, that's what it's all about, It's business.
And out of all the dates on the tour, this run, this is your most closest to the stage. There is no barrier. You are literally on top of DRI, and that they will let you guys come up and do backflips. And this is one of your shows where you bring your camera and you post stuff, and it's going to be amazing footage.
Well, you won't see my ass doing any backflips.
Well, no, you'll be actually on the side with me. We'll be over there checking out our demo plan to make sure we'll make sure our PPO is okay.
All right. Sounds like a plan, Mike. I love it.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I know I've kind of been rambling. Again, I hope I didn't bore anybody, but if anybody's looking to come out to the West Coast, hit me up.
Absolutely. And, Michael, I would love to have you on again anytime. You did great. I know you were nervous. You did wonderful. Thumbs up. You were awesome. We like people who talk. I prefer the talker over the non-talker. It's talk radio.
Right. And here's
Hence
another
the word
thing.
talk.
I can give you some CDs of some bands, like I said, because the radio doesn't help us out, but you guys do, of some bands that are just freaking amazing, that are real bands that play that maybe you don't know about, that are, future stars.
Awesome. Well, it's been awesome having you on. You guys get out to the show. We're going to close up a little early tonight. It's not going to be the full hour and 15 like usual.
Yeah, because I got to go. I got to go to Y&T and hang out with them at the Catalyst tonight. I'm hanging.
You got plans.
I'll be hanging with the band there tonight.
All right, sounds good. And reserve me 2 tickets on will call. I'll be there for sure next week.
Listen,
I hope
you are getting in. There's no problem. All
right. Thank you, Mike, for joining me tonight. Mike from Man Down Productions, everyone. Give him some double horns up. He was awesome tonight. It's going to be a great show. Don't miss it. I'm going to close out tonight with another song by Culture Warfare called Sick Male. You guys have a good weekend. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Track 11.